the biggest problem to any nation will be emotional men, and we see it today. Martial arts has a way of, at least with men and the young men that I've teach, like a lot of the young men I've taught, a lot of the young men that didn't go on to be fighters, but they're all productive citizens. Like they call them, I see their path. Like they're good fathers, they're good men. And that's what Wilson Pitts told me. He said, you know what martial arts is for, Lyte? And I was like, what's that? He says, to make useless men useful. Now go be useful. And he's correct.
Welcome back to FURYCAST. Also, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and of course, smash the bell for notifications. Please welcome on FURYCAST today, Mr. Lyte Burly.
How you doing? Glad to be here, man. It's an honor. It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Same here, sir. Now, man, there's so much I want to ask you about because I want to learn about you. I also want to learn about your art, 52 Blocks.
Yes, sir.
Both seem to be shrouded in mystery. So we're going to get to the bottom of the mystery. Tell me about yourself. Well, first, take a couple minutes to tell the good people that might not know who you are and what you do.
Oh, okay. Well, I am a martial artist, full-time martial artist. I've been in the martial arts since I was very young. Went to the YMCA, did karate, did all of the good stuff. And when I was coming up, there was an art known as 52 Blocks that I was really in love with and trying to figure out what it was. So I did that one. Hold on one second. Pardon that fault. Hold on one second. So hold on one second. Sorry about this.
It's all good. We got a camera malfunction. It's all good.
Okay, yeah. It's just.
I asked you to adjust it. I never should have said anything. My bad.
Yeah. Well, since it's a rickety, there we go. My tripod is having problems. I use it a lot. And out here in Texas, these winds are crazy. So I'll set it up. There'll be no wind. And then I'll turn around and the gust of wind took it across the street and destroyed my iPod and my tripod. But getting back to it. So after that, I kind of stayed in the martial art world. I ended up meeting my real teachers, who I give all the credit to, Roberto Sharp and Wilson Pitts. And they changed my life. And it was Wilson Pitts that gave me the idea when YouTube was just like the wild, wild west. It was really just getting started. He said, you should put out a DVD on there or the information is going to die with you. So I was like, hey, that's a good idea. So I ended up putting out the DVD and it kind of took off. And, now we're here. And so that's pretty much the long story short story version.
Now, so take me back to your childhood. What was it like? Where'd you grow up and what was your childhood like?
I grew up in Queens, Far Rockaway, Queens. And man, I went through all 4 boroughs of New York now that I think about it. But I was raised in Brooklyn. I was raised in Brooklyn in my earlier part of my life. Then we moved to Queens and then we moved to Manhattan. And so it was, it was a fairly good upbringing as far as good people around me. My cousins, they were in the fightings and stuff like that. And they were the ones that I really was able to see the use of 52 Blocks. So in Brooklyn was always kind of like the heart of, they always had like the most 52 Block fighters for some reason. I'm not too sure why that phenomenon is, but Brooklyn and Queens being close, it made a lot of people in Queens, brothers in Queens, they kind of emulated Brooklyn. So it was a lot of 52 Block fighters out there. So it was, I see a lot of people that tell a whole lot of sob stories about their upbringing. Like everybody tries to out trauma people, but it was cool. It was a pretty cool upbringing. Then I went to a military school in boarding/military school in Philadelphia, known as Gerard College. And
dude, that's awesome. My mom used to threaten me with that when I was active.
With Gerard College?
Just military school. I'm gonna send you to military school. And I would watch movies and it looked fresh. I was like, oh yes, please. I'd love
man. Well, we got it bad because my mother's friend, she wanted her son to go. So she comes down to my mother's house and brings the brochure, like, yeah, this is it. So my mother said, well, I'm sending my kids too. When we get there, we have to take an IQ test. Her son failed. Me and my brother passed, and it was all it was all downhill from there, downhill and uphill. Because when I went, I didn't like it, but now looking back, I'm so glad I had the chance to do that, because they instilled a lot of good things in me that you can't really see until you get older. So salute to Girard College. It's a pretty good school.
That's awesome. Now, what decade was this when you were a kid? Was this the 90s?
Yeah, 80s.
80s, 90s.
Now.
That's all.
Yeah,
okay,
80s,
we're about the same age then.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you, because you're in New York, the fight culture in New York, Tyson was on top, right?
Oh, very true. Very true. Like, Brooklyn fighters in New York get a whole lot of respect. Like I said, I'm not too sure what made Brooklyn so hands-on, but a lot of great fighters came from Brooklyn. The Zab Judas, the Mike Tysons, like the list goes on and on, is how many fighters Brooklyn has been able to produce. So
do you think that affected you to did that affect you as a child, like to be interested in fighting?
Oh yeah, because when I came up, fighting was everything. Like, these young guys running around killing each other, like, that was now thing. We didn't want to kill you, like, we wanted to blacken your eye and talk about you. You know what I'm saying? Like see, that's him right there. Yeah, I beat him up yesterday. Like, that was our thing. So fighting was like, it was the manly way. Like, you didn't go get weapons and really try to hurt anybody. You fought it out. So yeah, fighting was very big and interesting to me back then.
So how old were you when you got out of, is it Girard College, you said?
Yeah, I was, I think I was around 16 or 17 when I got out. I went in when I was 8. I got out around like 16 or 17. I didn't.
Did you come home on the weekends for that, or you were?
Well, being from New York, I was there. Like, my mother didn't have a lot of money to chauffeur us back and forth, so we only came home on the major holidays. So it was a real experience for me, because everybody that lived there, they went home every weekend. So I was pretty much there every week.
Do you think your mom was worried about influences, or why do you think she was so adamant about, hey, giving you this opportunity?
Well, where we was living, like I said, it wasn't a crazy upbringing. Of course, there was,
I see movies and about Brooklyn in the 80s, people sitting on the stoop. And it looks fun to me.
It's a very, to me, like, I think people look at New York and see it, as like, we're not friendly, but we're a very tight-knit group. In Brooklyn, Queens, they have that feel. Like, Harlem is kind of like the big world. Like, Manhattan, it's like the big world. Like, but Brooklyn and Queens got like almost like a village type of thing going on. So it was, we had good community, but still, I think my mother didn't want us to didn't want to raise us in that atmosphere. And I'm glad she didn't, because, a lot of my friends didn't make it out of that. It was like hit or miss, and most of them failed. The test of surviving the streets.
Crack hit in the 80s. Did it affect that community?
Oh, big time, because that's when fist fighting stopped. When crack became king, that's when I tell this story, like, that was the death of 52 blocks, pretty much.
Really?
When crack became king, because the money came in and the guns came in, and who's fist fighting now? Like, why fist fight when we can just shoot everything up and get rid of you? So because of that, fist fighting started going the way of the old days. It was like something traditionally men did over what men should do. So crack definitely had an effect on 52 blocks plus the neighborhood.
Wow, I never really thought about how drugs would affect a martial art, or
yeah, exactly, drug epidemic.
Right? That's crazy.
Yeah, hip hop survived. Like, that was the funny thing, is hip hop survived it, and almost didn't, but hip hop survived it, because they were able to take the stories of what was happening and put them in the music, and so on and so on. But like, break dancing, the 52 block fighting, all kind of took a hit. The 52 blocks, I think, big really took a hit, because, like I said, nobody's fist fighting anymore.
That's interesting, because what is it, the 5 elements of hip hop, or is it the 4 elements of hip hop? You have rapping, you have MCing, breakdancing, DJing, graffiti art. So the 5th element would you consider 52 Blocks the fifth element of hip hop?
Exactly. Correct the Mundo. Like I just did a video talking about 52 Blocks is really the fighting form of hip hop, because up rocking and breakdancing had an effect on the moves. Like there were already moves, because 52 Blocks came from black boxers. That's where it started from. But then when you think about when they hit the street, and like, you know, these boxers lived in the ghetto too. So when they hit the street, the moves that they had started, you know, they started ad-libbing on it. They added more to it. That was a simple cross block became a skull and bones, and all of these other type of moves off of these basic defensive shapes that we had.
Man, hip hop, all we need is hip hop food.
Well, you know, you got hip hop potato chips, so it's coming.
Oh yeah, my wife brought some of those home.
It's on this way. It's definitely on this way.
So you're 16. You get out of military school.
Try college, yeah.
What's and next for you?
Yeah, I come back to Manhattan, and I'm living in Manhattan at this time, and well, actually Queens and Manhattan, and that's pretty much when, you know, when I hit the streets, and, you know, I started hustling and everything. My Detroit Red moment, I would call it, and I went through all of that, and that was pretty rough, because, you know, I'm coming from a military school, being thrust back into the, you know, the ghetto that I've been away from so long. And the school that I was at was 70% white men, 30%, it was like 10% blacks, and, you know, 30% made up all of the other. So when I got back to the hood, you know, I had a different, you know, not, you know, for not as a braggadocious thing, but I was smarter than most of them. Like, you know, the level of,
you had more experience to draw from.
Yeah, the level
and the
of
academics.
Yeah, that I had, you know, like, you know, they were on it at the school. That's why I think that school now. I don't know where I would be without it, but you know, so that played the major thing. And then me being away so long and people knowing where I was at, it was like, oh, you was at that white school, you're white now. You know, you lost your black card, and, you know, all of that type of stuff. So I think the combination of that and the hustling to prove myself, you know, started the dark time. And I'm glad I survived it.
And you say you didn't graduate?
No, I didn't graduate. My brother did. He went the whole nine. And if you graduated, you either went into the military or they paid 2 years of any college that accepted you, which was incredible. Like you could be accepted.
Why didn't you finish? Why didn't you finish?
After my brother left, I didn't really want to be there no more. Like he
was older than you.
Yeah. It had ran this course. I was kind of by myself, and, you know, I wanted to experience the world. It felt like I was locked away, which we were kind of locked away. It felt like I was locked away. So I wanted to get out. You know, my mother wouldn't let me out. So I had to devise a plan to get out. It worked. And I was, you know, they released me. And so, yeah, that was my reason for not graduating. But I wish I would have. But I was more, at that time, I felt like I wanted to see the world, and I was just trapped away.
How long were you hustling? Little minute.
All my life. Yeah, all my life. All the way up to 52. Pretty much.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you want to elaborate on that, or you want to keep it on the low?
Oh, no. I elaborate on it as far as to help young men. I never had a job. Like once I came home, and, you know, I was very smart, and I understood. I was able to pick up on things, and so I was able to, you know, now that I look back at it, it wasn't I was a very successful hustler. And the problem with that is you succeed in hustling, so you kind of shut everything out. So when you get my age at 50, like a lot of the guys that I know that was with me, they have nothing now. Like we did nothing but hustling. We had no trades. And so now you're 50 and stuck because you can't sell drugs no more. You've been to jail too many times. So that's the downside to being a successful drug dealer, that you don't see until, you know, you don't see the effects later. I got lucky with this 52 thing. So it was you know, I did pretty much you know, everything that it came with it, you know, got shot back, went to jail, friends went to jail. Like everything they tell you that's going to happen. Like the older people would say, don't sell drugs, you're going to go to jail and get shot. Well, we did both of them. They were correct. Every, like, you know, certain things that sound corny or like when you're young, like, get out of here. What are you talking about? No, they were true. They were very true. And yeah, so, you know, I was fortunate to make it out of it. Without a lot of my friends got a lot of time in jail. You know, I got shot and could have died, and by the grace of the universe, you know, I'm still here. So, yeah, it was everything they said it. They said it was going to be. You know, friends turning on you. You know, greed is the driving source of it. So, who could you really trust when greed is driving everybody? Greed is the real reason you can't make good moves. Because I knew guys that were making 10,000 a day. And you would think that, you know, 10,000 a day, go buy some buildings, investments. No, but because the greed to have you thinking, well, I made 10,000 on Monday, I'm gonna make 10,000 on Tuesday, I'm gonna make 10,000 on Wednesday, and then on Thursday the police come and get you. So that, you know, it is really no way out. Like the percentages of getting out of there with all of your senses is still intact or very low, and I'm one of the very small percent that made it through without too much happening, but everything else happened, but without too much happening. So, yeah,
It was
you know,
52. When you found 52 blocks, was that the thing that helped you transition, or were you doing it while you were in the streets?
Yeah, I was doing it while I was hustling. You know, I had a successful weed delivery service before weed went legal. So I had that, and that was my base. And you know, it was like the lesser of evils from what I was doing before. And I got very lucky with that and made lots of money. So I used that money to kind of fund 52, to take trips, to go see people. Like, you know, a lot of the seminars that I did in my earlier days, I paid for them. Like nobody paid me. All they had to do was say, yo, I'm here. And I was like, well, I'm coming next week. All you needed the dojo, and all you needed was the dojo, and I was showing up. So, you know, it kind of helped. It kind of bridged me into this 52 thing. And then it came a point where it was like, I think I could actually do something with this 52 thing. So then I challenged myself to like, well, you're never going to really put your all in 52 until you let go of your safety net, you know, which was my hustling ability. And I was, you know, and I spoke with my teachers, and they were like, yeah, like, you know, you're never going to find out if you can fly until you jump off the cliff and see if you grow wings. So I jumped and I never looked back. And I've been a full-time martial artist ever since.
What time was that? How long ago was that you made that leap?
Let's see, what this is 2024. I would have to say about 2020.
2020.
Yeah, so about 4 years.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. 4 years full-time martial artist, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, definitely.
That's for people listening that might not be in the martial arts game. That's difficult.
Very hard. Very,
yes.
Very, very hard. And that's one of the reasons I was kind of hesitant to make the jump. Like, because I seen my teacher was training people for $25 a day. He didn't make a lot of money. And then I looked up coaches, and they was like, this job is a shit job. Like, like coaching is really a shit job. Like, it's all love. Like, you love to do this. Don't get in this thinking you're gonna make 100 million, because the very, 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 very small percent of coaches get that shot. So it's really a thing of love. And I really loved martial arts, and I really loved doing what I was doing. And because I was hustling, I never had to run off to work. So it allowed me something that my teacher told me is like, the only way to become an efficient martial artist, like a real martial artist, is you need the commodity of time. He said that's what kills most men. It's like, you got a family, you got a job, 8 hours. When do you train?
Yeah.
So me, because I was hustling, I was able to train 6 to 7 hours for like 10 years straight. Like, I didn't have no job. So I woke up, I trained, I ate, I trained, I ate, I trained, I trained, I trained, I trained. And
5-6 days a week? 5-6 days a week? How many days a
7
week?
days a week. I was
Yeah.
going 7 days a week.
I've
I
been
had
talking to
no.
my wife about that because it's like I was asking her, you know, I'm older now. I think we're the same age.
Mhm.
You know, I've been teaching full time for several years, and I've got students that come in and, you know, some train, you know, 3-4 days a week, and you know, they're doing well in relation to their peers. But I was talking to my wife. I think I was training 5, 6, 7 days for 20 years. You know,
Yes.
it was just part of
Yeah.
the lifestyle. You get
Yep.
off work, you go train. Your friends are there, you train. You know, the gym's closed. Somebody has mats at their house. They're going to barbecue. We're going to pull out the mats. We're going to train. They need some barbecue. It's just, it was ubiquitous. It was everywhere. You know,
That's right.
that was the life. And it sounds like that's what you were doing as well.
Oh yeah, for sure, big time. Like, I had ended up getting into a fight, and it really took a lot of me to get through it. Like, I had my eye, like the capillaries had bust, so this was red. I had to really, like, I was lumped up to get it. I was really bruised up to get through that fight, and I had just started not too long ago training with my teacher Roberto Shaw. And what fired me was his disappointment, because I came to class and he rolled in the park on his bike and he looked at me, and he always had this big smile. But when he focused in on what my face looked like, his smile disappeared. And he's like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Well, I got into a fight. I had to do what I had to do." Like, oh, okay. Then he told me this story about a Tai Chi master and the son. And he said he sent his son off to the store to get some milk. The son went to the store, got into a fight while he was getting the milk. He hit the guy with the Tai Chi blast, and as the guy was flying back, he snatched his shirt off. So when he went home, his father said, "What happened with your shirt?" He said, "Oh man, I got into a fight. I had to hit this guy with the Tai Chi blast." He said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Well, go downstairs and train. Next time, come back with your shirt." And he leaned into me and he said, "Lyte, if you want to fight, next time come back with your shirt." And it just sparked something in me. And I was like, well, is there really a martial excellence? Like, can you really reach that level? And I challenged myself. So that day on, I started training 6-7 hours a day, every day. And then it became a lifestyle.
I'm interested to know, because you're in New York in the 80s, height of Shaw Brothers Kung Fu movies in theaters. You can go watch them. Probably on TV. Kung Fu Theater comes on Sunday afternoon. Kung Fu, Kung Fu, Kung Fu. Why didn't you go the Kung Fu route? It seemed very popular in New York at that time.
Yeah, I think, I think the Asians owe the black man in New York a lot. Like, we carry Kung Fu more than people can really know. I mean, like, I know dudes that walked around the ghetto in Kung Fu slippers, the gis, I had
Real
ninja
life Bruce
stars.
Leroy's.
Yeah. Like, we really held Kung Fu down. And I was a part of the Kung Fu. I like Kung Fu too. Like, it was my teacher Wilson Pitts that kind of shook my love of Kung Fu, of seeing it for what it really is.
So you were infected with the Kung Fu bug.
Oh yeah, you couldn't have been in the ghetto at that time and not. It was Channel 5 Kung Fu movies. Like, I think I've seen everything. Five Deadly Venoms, the Man with the Golden Arm, Prodigal Son, and on and on and on. Yeah, so yeah, definitely.
So how did you discover 52 blocks?
Oh, well, it was always around me. Like I said, when I was coming up, that's how the brothers fought. Like, that's how the black men at that time fought. There was no, everything was this rhythmic distraction.
Really, as a child, you saw the movements of 52.
Oh yeah. Like, that's how they fought. We had, of course, there was some that were better than others at using it. There was some that kind of used it and didn't really know what they were doing. But yeah, it was always a part of my life growing up. My cousins fought that way. I learned certain things from my cousins and met other guys, Ramel Scott, a guy named by the G Hove. I met other guys that taught me stuff too. So yeah, definitely.
We should probably explain to the people out there what 52 blocks is.
Okay, well, 52 blocks is a fighting system created by black men when black men were allowed to compete in the first sport ever, which was boxing. And through that, what black men brought into boxing was defense. Like at that time, boxing was on its way to being outlawed. It was something you did in back at speakeasies and saloons and stuff, like abandoned warehouses, and the police, away from the eye of the police, because it was so brutal. So when black men were allowed to fight, we brought in the defense, which made boxing today known as the sweet science. And that defense is what turned into 52 blocks, which was a system based on the study of how not to be hit, not meaning hitting the other person, how to stop the other person from hitting you. And that's what we brought in. Because of that, it turned into its own system. Like, you see Archie Moore with the armadillo that he called the armadillo. He called the cross arm. A lot of those shapes became the basic fundamentals for the system of 52 blocks.
Do we know where it was derived from? Because I've heard different origin stories for 52 blocks.
Yeah, from the black boxes. I got a guy now that's saying it came from jail, which is
I've heard that. Yeah, you don't believe that?
Yeah, like what? Why would jail create a system for black men and nobody else? There's no such thing. Jails created nothing but inmates and convicts. It doesn't create systems or anything worth use in this world. So that's a selling point for some to make it, I guess, seem more aggressive or effective. That you can, if it could survive jail, man, then you should be able to use it. It's BS. It's BS. And I stand against it. And everybody in the 52 block community know my stand on it, because I'm leading the pack. Like, I am the spearhead of 52. So they can rumble, but I speak the truth, and they know it.
So how'd you connect with your teachers? You're a young man, I guess in Queens at this time. Mm-hmm. You're seeing 52 blocks on the streets. Mm-hmm. You're attracted to it. How did you connect with your instructors? How did you start training 52 blocks?
Well, see, that the thing with 52 back then, it was never really a system. Like, certain guys had certain moves that they did. I kind of call them knack masters. Like, this guy had 2 or 3 moves. This guy had 2 moves that his go-to moves. And it was that type of thing. So it was about like collecting shapes and ideologies from different men. So in Queens, there was my cousins, my family. And then when I went to Harlem, I met a guy by the name of Ramel Scott and Mr. G. And those 2 men showed me a lot. Ramel Scott, he would come spar with me frequently. And Mr. G, kind of the same thing. Mr. G wasn't a hands-on person. He was more cerebral. So he could talk to you and break down, show certain stuff. But it was Ramel that was more hands-on with me. So even though we're not the best of friends right now, I can't erase them out of my history. So, but
we all have instructors like that.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I always come to this point when I'm doing interviews, like, should I talk about him and give him but then I can't erase him from my history, like, and what he's done for me. I'll never, even though we're not seeing eye to eye, I won't do that. So he put in a lot of time with me, as far as he would come down every weekend, and slap boxing was the way that 52 blocks, that's how we sparred and practiced, was through the art of slap boxing. So we would slap box for 9-10 hours. Like, we would stop, rest, eat, then start up again, and like it would go on all day. And I'm very thankful that, I think the greatest thing any man can give you is his time and attention. So I'm very thankful for that moment too.
Now, you're saying it was about collecting shapes, the techniques, I guess. Mm-hmm. Who took on this task to kind of quantify it into a system, collecting all the shapes and making it a formal system? Was that you?
The man that you have sitting in front of you. That was I. Yes.
So you went to these different instructors, and you're like, he has this mm-hmm. part I'm going to take, and he has that part.
Yes.
And you just kept taking it. Okay.
Yes. In a large group of men, through a large, a good amount of time. And then, after having these shapes and you know, slap boxing and learning all of this stuff, it really, you know, the whole thought of like putting it together didn't come along until I met Roberto and Wilson, who know the real martial artists. Because what I've learned about 52 is, and from what I've learned about fighting, is that those guys back then, they were good fighters, but they weren't really fighters. I mean, technical. That, you know, like spent every day. Back then, I would say they had more training time back then, since fighting was so prevalent. We spent a lot of time like wrestling and punching at each other. But still, after learning boxing, I've learned that you just don't know how to punch. You have to go to boxing to learn how to punch. Like, you just don't wake up and naturally, like, fighting is the most unnatural thing we do.
Yeah, so I always say that.
Yeah, so you just don't wake up. Like, fighting, to what I've learned now is fighting is like being an engineer. Like, you don't just wake up an engineer. You go through the process, you learn, you work on shit at trial and error, years in, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got a great amount of experience. Then you could say you're an engineer. So I've learned that even then, back then, those guys weren't really the best of fighters. They threw haymaker punches. So it was Wilson and Roberto that helped me see that, to kind of, you know, put a system together that recognized good offense too, because it's a system of defense. So with a system of defense, you're not going to have the greatest offense, you know, because that wasn't the thing. The thing was about not being hit. And it's a black thing.
It's called 52 blocks, not 52 punches, I guess.
Exactly. Like, but the essence of it has always been the black thing. What did Ali say after every fight? I'm still pretty. What was he saying?
He never
didn't hit me.
Yeah,
exactly. That's always been with black people. That was always been our thing. Like, we're not the punch you in the face, punch me in the face, and let's rock. We are not rock'em sock'em robots. That does not work for us at all.
Brawlers.
And I've always said all arts come from the pressure and the culture of men. You know, Muay Thai, you know, comes from their struggles, their pressure, and their culture. Our culture is don't get hit. You know what I'm saying? Like, no matter, you know, fight a fight without getting hit. That's what melanated warriors believe in. We want to win a fight without getting touched. As extreme and delusional as that is, it's those delusions that help create the style.
Well, Jim Kelly said, I'll be too busy looking good.
Exactly. Floyd Mayweather. I can, like, this list can go on and on and on to prove, you know, Jack Johnson was the greatest defensive fighter ever. They never seen nothing like him.
Yeah.
You know, boxing had never seen nothing like that. You know, it was the Little Terror. He was the black man that brought bobbing and weaving into boxing. He introduced it. Joe Gans created the jab, the most defensive weapon ever. Joe was created by Joe Gans. So that, you know, Wilson Pitts was able to show me the history, the information of the history, to put it all together.
Now, we're talking about boxing now. So have you added a boxing component to so you go around, you collect all these shapes, aka techniques, and then are you adding boxing to those shapes?
No, you don't have to add. Like, it was already been a part of boxing. It came from boxing, black boxers. So, you know, like when I say defense, I think most people don't really understand what defense means, because they don't really fight in the defensive aspect. What I've learned is most fighters fight thinking they're going to win. Straight delusional. Nobody sees themselves getting their ass whooped, so they don't think about defense. You know, so when I say defense, people like me, oh, so you mean self-defense? I like, no, I mean not being hit, ducking, slipping, clever footwork, interceptions, blocking, feints, hand distraction. That's 52. 52 is way bigger than blocking. It was just the name. It got pigeon-toed in the name of 52 blocks, which was created by the 5%ers to make the fighting system match their ideology. So the name was actually not really, it was just the name that the 5%ers made up, you know, not really trying to, you know, talk about the art, but they knew the art was defensive, but they came up with that name because 5 + 2 is 7. 7 is the God number, and so on and so on and so on. So the name itself was created by the 5% nation.
So but you were saying that they would throw haymakers, and they're technically their striking
Bad
wasn't
strike, like
wasn't that technical. So was your job to kind of clean that up for the 52 block system, create technical jabs, jab, cross, hook, uppercut?
Well, I like it to me, like to have it as a metaphor. 52 was a shield with a broken sword, meaning because you spend your mind on defense, you don't really work on your offense. Like they weren't working on throwing proper left hooks. So I didn't introduce that to 52. I just, teach that if you are going to be defensive, when you strike, you should have a credible offense too. Like, so that's what it was, is that they just didn't have, nobody was studying, like, except for the boxers. There were boxers that were doing 52, Ishmael, and he was knocking out everybody in the hood. He looked like a magician, but what people didn't pick up on, it was he was throwing straights and hooks, not this type of. So that's why he was beating everybody
people
up.
Do like this, they start boxing with their thumbs out.
Yeah, all this crazy stuff, the Phoenix side, and all of this crazy madness. So yeah, he just knew how to knuckle up. So not only was his defense tight, after he made you miss, he made you pay in a big way, like big way. So that's what 52 to me was really missing, was a credible offense.
Okay, I see you. I see you do stuff with like Dominic Izzo and seminar circuit. Are you taking any elements in your travel from things you've learned and incorporating it into 52? Because 52 seems like it's still an evolving art, which in my opinion, even going back to Bruce, every art should constantly be evolving.
Yeah.
But is it still evolving, and are you still adding elements?
No, I think right now, at the base is pretty good. Right now, I have a lot of younger students. They're taking it, they're adding their own, flavor to it. I don't really think you can add any more to it that is already kind of looked at defensively. I would just say, if you're going to have a good shield, have a sharp sword too. That's all.
What about some 52 grappling?
When
you had to think about it, everybody. You had to think about it.
Yeah, because when you start looking at it, some shapes could be used in grappling senses, like in a grappling environment, but I wouldn't say it's ready to get down there with a good BJJ practitioner. You get the life choked out of you. So, I'm a reality-based fighter, and I believe fighting is very hard, and a lot of men, I think, men's delusion is this fantastical fighting shit that's not real. Like, fighting is hard, it's fast. It's not what you think. It's like ugly. So much more goes into it than the actual chaotic technique. Yeah, chaos. Yeah, it's this chemical reactions happening in your body when it comes time to fight that you have to deal with.
Well, it starts happening. Yeah, it starts happening with young men. Even some of my students, they've been with me, they were kids, 10, 11, 12. They hit 12, 13. You start hearing them say stuff like, oh, he can catch these hands. Like, you don't have you don't have anything. You have nothing. You have no hands. You have nothing. He's gonna that if he's 2 years older than you, he's gonna punch you in the face, sit on top of you.
And that's it.
That's why you're a grappler. We train for the eventuality of a bigger, stronger person trying to tackle us and take us to the ground.
Yes.
But yeah, they're delusional that they're gonna catch these hands.
It's big, man. Like the delusions of men in fighting is so large, but it's understandable. It's understandable, and I think that's why every man should be on the journey of some martial arts for the discipline and the truth.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what are you doing now? So you said you got some students. Do you have a school, or what's up? What are you up to now?
Oh, right now, I'm out here. I've been training. I've trained a lot of students. One of my students, Problem Burley, he just won the Masters boxing division in New York.
His name's Problem?
Yeah, Problem Burley. Yeah.
Nice.
I gave everybody Burley names so we stick out, so you know who my students are. Then we have Lumberjack Burley, who's just turned professional, and hopefully he'll be picked up by the UFC. Then I'll have my other student, Nace the Star Burley. He's a kickboxer transitioning over to MMA, doing very well. And I plan to open the school. I'm looking at Georgia or New York. It's probably be started off Georgia because New York is so expensive. But I want to open the first school of defense, and that way I can train everybody's students because I don't have to touch their offense. I just train people on the ability of getting out the way, and especially kids. I think a defensive system works for kids because not everybody's a fighter. Not everybody's willing to rip eyeballs out and you know, beat men bloody. Not every man is built to that, but defense is something that everybody has. See, that's the good thing about defense, self-preservation. Everybody has that, and it's more it's more common to you than offense. Like offense is totally outside your league. When we weren't made to punch and kick, we made all of that stuff up to fight each other. But as far as self-preservation, now that's in you. See, that can be uniquely trained immediately. And that's what the side of fighting that I want to represent. That I noticed that so many fighters overlook because, like I said, most fighters always believe they're the winners. And I think defense, it's not a losing mentality. It's not the mentality of the loser, but it's the mentality of the real. That once you go to fight, you have to know he will be trying to hit you. I'm saying, like, he will be trying to hurt you. And what's going to be your response to that besides just punching them back in the face? Because if you just got a punch for punch, what if he's stronger than you? Well, you lose that fight. So
bigger, stronger, more athletic guy's gonna beat an untrained person.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, and I think through defense, you get de-escalation. You learn because the physical becomes the spiritual and the mental. So the more you train a defensive system, the more spiritually you become in that way. So you start deflecting, intercepting, and blocking on the spiritual level, a mental level. You learn how to disengage. Ego. Offense is ego. Offense is dripping with ego, dripping. And if you don't learn how to control it, you will get yourself hurt. Like my teacher, Wilson Pitts, when he taught me boxing, he taught me Tai Chi because he said boxing is a fire art. So if I don't teach you something to equal that, you'll walk around with your ass on your shoulders thinking you can beat everybody up. So he taught me Tai Chi to equal out the fire of boxing because of the offense of it. So, like I said, offense is dripping in ego, and a lot of men are there. They're not really worried about what's going to happen to them. So that's the market I would like to corner. So far, I've been doing a pretty good job of it, but hopefully a school this year, though.
Yeah. Hey, come to Houston, man.
Yeah, well, I heard Houston got some of the best boxing now, but I'm not going to lie. Everybody I talked to out here told me not to go to Houston. Like, man, it's crazy. Be careful.
Are you serious?
I'm not sure if I want to go now. Like everybody.
You're from Queens, man. Come on.
Gang members. So if they're scared, I'm definitely scared.
That's weird because I look at Houston so differently now because I would have said that, when I moved here in the 90s, but now I just see a bunch of gentrified. All the old hoods are gentrified. There's high rises. That used to be a crack house. It's a high rise, so food
that's kind of
trucks.
like the story of New York. That's New York right now.
Yeah.
New York, 80s, 90s, totally different to what it is right now. There's poodles and little teacup Yorkies walking through neighborhoods that used to have shootouts every day.
Oh, dude, we go eat at a Mexican restaurant that's a block away from one of the projects. I say one of them because I grew up in multiple projects. And so they built a high-rise condo next to the projects, and I'm driving by, and there's just this lady with, her dog going to the corner store across the street from the projects that I grew up in where literally people were dying, bro. People getting, shot, stabbed. And I'm like, she thinks she just bought this condo and she thinks she's,
Yeah. So that goes to show you how fast, civilization moving forward can take an area, and it's almost like it never happened. Like I go back to Manhattan to some of the blocks I used to hustle on. You would never be able to tell that used to be a famous crack block.
Yeah,
you couldn't, like the stores, the glitz, You know, they don't have liquor store. They have wine and spirits.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, wow, we got liquor stores. Y'all got wines and spirits. You know, but the terminology matters to the people that they're trying to, you know, target. So yeah, that's the same thing in New York.
Y'all have bodegas, we have corner stores.
Yeah, we have bodegas.
Yeah.
Now they're corner stores. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do have food now at the corner stores. There's like taco places and, you know, chicken places, but
yeah, same thing happened to New York. But yeah, I definitely want to because I've been to Dallas. I was out there in Dallas for a little while. It was pretty cool. I almost got a chance to meet Errol Spence. I was this close to meeting Errol Spence, but you know, time didn't line up. But I definitely am going to visit Houston. I actually in talks with a guy now to come to a school and maybe teach a class or do a seminar. So if that works out.
Can you say the name, or you can't say the name yet?
I can't remember this guy's name. He's been reaching out through the DMs. I'm not even sure if he's real, but he's in the Houston area asking me to do a seminar. Like, well, let me know, I have so many people ask that, you know, it's only a small percentage that I actually really
how's that? Is that picking up for you? The seminar circuit, is that picking up?
Oh yeah. This probably had to be last year, and this year is probably like in 3 more days I'm going to England. So wow, that's pretty big. Yeah, they're flying me to England. Vikings combatives, salute the Viking combatives. We're trying to build a 52 block branch out there in the UK because those guys still like to knuckle up out there. So, you know, so that's a good spot for 52. So we'll try to build a branch out there. And I'm gonna go do a 2-day seminar out there. I've worked with a movement for Black Lives. I've done seminars for them. I just did a seminar in Florida. So last year to this year, it's starting to pick up a little. You know, I don't want to have too many great expectations because they always bottom out. But you know, so far so good. Yeah, it's starting to pick up.
And what's next for you? What are your plans for the future?
You know, I want to make sure. I feel like I'm 50, and you know, I think
you just turned 50.
Yeah.
74. You were born in 74, huh?
Yep. Yes, indeed. Yes, and on the death of Bruce Lee, I was.
Oh, really? What is that? April? What day is that?
July 20th.
July 20th. Okay,
yeah. So, yeah, and that was the day the man went on the moon. I think July 20th is that day. So I feel like I got a little something from Bruce. So my plan is to be a martial artist, you know, world renowned and recognized through teaching reality-based fighting. Like, it's time to remove some of the fantasy. And I get it. The fantasy helps sell the movie. So I'm not trying to remove the fantasy. I do believe fantasy helps some fighters come to reality, but I just really want to center on defense and the reality of fighting, so that a lot of people get a bigger understanding that fighting is not easy. It requires a lot of training, and then the training of being a fighter. What I've learned is that fighting is the smallest branch on the martial art tree. Is that you may or may not be able to kick another man's ass. What you get besides that, discipline. You know, I'm in great shape. I'm 50. Like right now, I know a lot of 50-year-old men that are destroyed, like done. Like they step out the shower. They probably haven't seen their lower half in like 100 years. So at the age of 50 and still being able to do a lot of things that I could do at 30, I think that's the true gift of martial arts, which is health, clear thinking, spiritual, because I believe if you build the body, if you build the body, you strengthen the mind. When you strengthen the mind in the body, you strengthen the soul, which is the house of those two. So, you know, I definitely believe in body, mind, soul connection. That physical exertion helps connect you to the other two, just like how Kung Fu was created. He only did it because they couldn't pray. Like they couldn't pray the 36 hours he needed them. So he taught them Kung Fu to make them stronger. He didn't teach them Kung Fu to go build somebody's eyes out. It was to make their body stronger. Now they can pray for 36 hours, no problem. So that was the the invention. That was why Kung Fu was created. So you get, that's bigger than I got hands, son. That's way bigger than that.
But people want to just walk around and say that, though. They don't want to pray for 36 hours.
Nah,
they want hands.
Yeah, I got hands, son.
Without having to work for it. Being born. Yeah. I'm just born with hands.
Yeah, it's a posture attack. Even grizzly bears posture, and they can rip you to shreds.
Yeah.
But even grizzly bears posture. Every animal posture. So I can smell posturing.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I hear I got hands, it's like, okay, you're posturing.
Okay.
Because the real people with hands, you don't know until it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Now, do you have any interesting and or funny anecdotes, a little story that might have happened along your journey you could share with the people?
More specific is like what, martial arts?
Martial arts. Something happened during training or just your journeys.
Oh man, I don't think there's been a time when something has not happened, especially in this 52 world. And let me put this out, disclaimer. Most men in martial arts are kind of mentally unstable. I've met a lot of unstable men in martial arts. Like, it's big. Like, it's a lot of people need therapy. I had to tell one guy, like, no, you don't need no training. You need therapy, buddy. You know, I've had crazy, because at one point I was in the park and I was like, anybody that doesn't believe in 52, you can come spar me and we'll see. I was up for the open challenge. And some people came. My man, Nakmizi, one of my great friends, he represented Muay Thai. We sparred and kicked and slapped and punched on each other. Great. Now we're great friends. But a lot of the other guys, they were kind of crazy. They were mentally disturbed. So like, yeah, I've had, I think I got too many Kung Fu stories. Even the story with Dominic Izzo, when I went to do a seminar with him, they had already called the other 52 block guys that were mad that I was getting a lot of attention. They called and told Dominic Izzo I was a fraud and, you know, he doesn't know nothing and you should be ashamed. And Dominic Izzo was like, well, we got military down here, police, MMA fighters. So if he's a fraud, we finna find out. So when I got down there and I'm doing the seminar, I can see everybody's enjoying it, but they got this side eye, like they don't really believe, because, you know, they had got I didn't know, like, about the phone call. And I ended up sparring everybody in there and I made them believers. And Dominic Izzo put $1,500 in my hand and said, you are the real thing, brother. And me and Dominic Izzo, that is my martial brother, because that was the first seminar I ever got paid for. And, you know, he paid me off of the fact that somebody had called him and told him something that I proved not to be true. And, you know, great friends now. You know, salute to Dominic Izzo.
Shout out Dominic. And it's good to have people that believe in you, right?
Yeah. Especially when you crossed hands with him, like we crossed hands. So, you know, and he's been constantly supporting me all of these years. And I really the video that he put up of me and him is one of the videos that got me a lot of attention, because Dominic Izzo was like a YouTube star. Like in his earlier days, all of his videos got like 40, 50,000 hits in 2 days. So the video that me and him did, I think, I don't know, it should be in the millions now or close to it. Like, so that video ended up getting me a lot of attention and helped me along the path. So much love to Dominic Izzo for having me out in Chicago.
And before I let you go, I just want to ask you, with all your experiences, life and martial arts, what is the advice you'd like to pass down to the next generation?
Or as far as learning martial arts, or engage it, you should do it. I think by far every man it should be mandatory for every man to learn martial arts and be on the martial art journey. You know, women are optional, but every man should be mandatory. And I tell you why is because the biggest problem to any nation will be emotional men. And we see it today, even in drill rapping. Like when I came up, rappers didn't die. Like 3 rappers die every week now. Like that's like the minimum. Like, you know, like it's become like a blood sport, you know. So martial arts has a way of, at least with men and the young men that I've teach, like a lot of the young men I've taught, a lot of the young men that didn't go on to be fighters, but they're all productive citizens. Like they call me, I see their path. Like they're good fathers, they're good men. And that's what Wilson Pitts told me. He said, you know what martial arts is for, like? And I was like, what's that? He says, to make useless men useful. Now go be useful. And he's correct. So my words to young men is, get you a martial art, learn discipline, learn to be disciplined, learn to be able to do something even when you don't want to do it. Because through the years of training, there's many days I didn't want to go out and do it. And I think those were my best training days, when I had to kind of like roll out the bed, crawl to the bathroom, like throw the water on my face, drink some coffee, and somehow make it out to the park or wherever I was going to go train. And I think that discipline there can affect so many areas of your life, you know, marriage, your money, your finances. And I think that's the real thing, the martial arts, is that you find out the greatest fights that you have is not with anybody else, it's with yourself. And when you arm yourself and give yourself the information to fight yourself and to win the war, great things can happen. Because, you know, I always tell my students, you know, nobody hates you. There's no such thing as a hater. So you know who your greatest hater is? You're your greatest hater. And until you turn your hater into a cheerleader, you'll have big problems in life. So I think men should do martial arts to turn their hater into cheerleaders. And then when you do that, who knows what? No, sky's the limit. You might go off to be Mayweather. You might be that dude that's standing on the train that witnesses a young lady getting accosted, and you can do something where every other man is scared to move because they're scared. They didn't learn nothing. You can do something. So that'd be my advice to men. Go learn the martial art. Go get you a discipline, and not just to kick another man's ass, to kick your own ass.
That's good words, man. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate your time here on the show. Hopefully you can come to Houston. We can get together.
Let's set it up.
Yeah.
I'm with it. Yeah,
absolutely. And I wish you all the success in life, and let's stay in touch, my friend.
For sure. I really appreciate you giving me this stage to talk my 52 block babble. And thank you. And we'll definitely be in touch. And hopefully this will bridge the gap for me to make it to Houston.
Absolutely. All right, man. God bless.
Hello.
And that brings us to the end of yet another episode of FURYCAST. Big shout out to Lyte Burly. If you want to reach out to him for any reason, like bringing him out for a seminar, his links are in the description. And make sure you show your boy Derrick Fury some love by joining the mailing list for my new graphic novel, The Gentleman's Guild. Art by E. Canales. That's right, E. Canales. The link is in the description. And don't forget to watch my feature film, Lion Killer. That's right, I made a movie. It stars Regina Ting-Chen, who's currently on season 4 of Stranger Things. You can watch it on Amazon Prime, Tubi TV, Freevee. There's even a full Spanish dub. And thanks again for watching FURYCAST. Please remember to like this video, help me boost the algorithm by commenting down below. You can share this episode on your social media platforms. You can also subscribe and yes, even smash that bell so you can be notified every time I drop a new FURYCAST video. This is Derrick Fury. Until next time, peace.